Hey everybody, thanks for joining us for the R&R Show. This is episode 83, and hello friends. I'm Ruel Gaviola, joined as always by Chris and Ray, our co-hosts, and we've got a very special guest in the house right now, Raina from Petasaurus. Hi Raina.
Woo. Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah, cannot wait to talk about this. Folks, did you know that we record this live on Twitch? Because we do. Every time we do this, we have a pre-show and a post-show. You can get to know Raina a lot better during the pre-show by clicking on links below for the extended edition of the show. A lot of great stuff. You'll learn a lot
all about her love.
Yes.
Her love.
I overshare a lot. Get to know me real well.
Oh, Chris with the special effects. Folks.
Look at it. Very, very Valentine's Day of you, Chris. Look at that.
Yes.
Hey, I had it. I mean, I was holding my hands like that below camera. I swear that's what I was doing. Just ready to pull them into frame.
There it is.
For the magic. Yes. Welcome to Valentine's Day couples games. Before we begin, should we define what we mean? What was everyone's sort of criteria for their list? Were you going specifically romantic partners? Were you going 2-player games? Going primary gaming partner? What were people thinking when they thought up these delicious gems that we're going to impart to everyone?
I would very much like to talk about this because I tried with this to really think about games that are heightened by like really knowing the other person very well. So not necessarily like your smooching partner, but someone like a roommate or someone that you really live with that you're like very comfortable with. That's a little bit of like a teaser for the types of games I'm talking about because I have a lot of really, really great 2-player games that I love just from a strategic. They're just like some of my favorite crunchy 2-player games, but I could in theory sit down with anyone at a convention and play this and have an equally great time. So I tried personally to try to pick games that are heightened by knowing the person you're playing with very well. That was my definition going into this.
Nice.
What about you, Raina? Did you come in with any?
Raina Ruel?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I did the opposite. I kind of just chose my favorite 2-player games, and I could play this with anyone, whether romantic or platonic. But it's fun. As soon as I sent that list over, I sat there and I was like, wait, they said couples games, not 2-player games. So maybe I missed the mark. But, regardless, I'm excited to talk about them. And, everyone has a different definition of couples. So we're getting a variety here, which is awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely. I can't wait to hear everyone's choices. Me, same thing. I went with my favorite 2-player games, but then I really thought about it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to stick with these because I think any couple, any 2-player grouping can play the games that I chose. So we shall see. But having said that, happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Thank you for watching. And why don't we let Chris, the man with the hearts, kick things off here with our number 10 for today.
My doctor says it's the size of an elephant. And there are major problems with them. There are 2 in there. It's an issue. So for me, for my picks, I wanted to go with things, kind of along the same lines of Ray for a few of them, and then some for your nemesis. You can have your head-to-head battle, depending upon what sort of relationship.
Enemies to lovers.
Yeah, your enemies to lovers, a romance novel. That's later. Yeah, will the Darkling change his ways and come over to the side of light only through the power of love and seduction and 12 pages of steamy description. But my first one is one that I play with my girlfriend Renee a lot. And I think this one is really heightened by knowing the other person very well as well. That your primary gaming partner, the person who you finish each other's sandwiches, all those sorts of people. So if mine is one of my favorite 2-player games, and that's Hanabi. I love Hanabi.
Oh my God, Grant Beard. I'm sorry, that was such a jump scare. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and actually, fun fact, you don't know this, but you have to play Hanabi with Grant. That Grant as your partner. When I'm talking about my primary gaming partner, I'm talking about Grant and Grant's Beard from Grant's Gaming Beard. It's a new channel. You should all check it out. Really good. You should shout it out. Hanabi is if you want to play base Hanabi without the Grant Beard expansion, you can. But really, it's best with the Grant Beard expansion. Hanabi is really, really great in terms of a limited communication game. It is sort of a trust fall as a board game, because you're going to be giving clues about the number of your clues can either comprise of, hey, you have all of this color, or hey, you have all of this number. And you want to be playing together your cards from 1 to 5 in all the 5 different suits. But you can't see your cards. That's why Grant is holding them to the camera. Grant couldn't see his cards. He can see the backs of his cards. And so I'm telling you, hey, this is a 2, and there are no 2s on the board. We haven't even played 1s yet. It's up to you to figure out what I'm trying to say by telling you that's a 2. And so you develop this really wicked unspoken language that only gets deeper the more that you play. And so playing this with the same person over and over again, I think is absolutely the best way to enjoy Hanabi. And then We Held Hands does a similar thing to this. I like Hanabi a little bit more, but I like both of them. And it's that sense of hidden communications and the things that you come up with together. Now that I've played this so much with my girlfriend, I'll be like, hey, this is this thing. And she's like, okay, I know what you're saying there. And we've moved to sort of the hardest level that you can have in terms of incorporating all the different multicolors in there, which hide themselves. If you say like, this is red, you also have to point at a multicolor, and then you'd be like, this is blue, and you point at the multicolor, and that's the only way you know it's multicolor. Anyway, it's a great game, super great for couples. I wanted to shout it out there because it is probably the thing that I play with my partner the most. And so there you go. That's why it's in here. That's our number 10, Hanabi.
I've played Hanabi. I've never played it at 2, Chris. This is so
really
interesting to me. Yeah, I've only played it in groups, 3 or 4.
Oh, yeah.
Like, is it, I don't know, how different is it as a couples game as far as like just, do you take fewer cards? I don't know, like mechanically.
Yeah, you have a hand of 5 cards. So you have a hand of 5 cards with 2 to 3 players, and you have a hand of 4 cards for 4 to 5 players.
Right.
So you have a little bit more leeway there with the card cycling. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's not that different. You still have 8 clues that you have to get back through discarding cards. It's the same thing. You still have the same number of cards in the deck as well. And the end game triggers the same. When you draw the last card, you each have 1 more turn. So all of that is the same. But yeah, I love it at 2 because, well, also in a group, I need to trust that all the group members are going to hint the right ways, and it never happens. And I'm like, oh no, I should only be taking care of the person next to me, but I have to take care of the whole group here.
Yeah.
And then someone's going to double clue, and it gives me a heart attack every time. It's a good heart attack, but with 2 people, I think it's a bit easier as well with 2 people because you only have to worry about each other. And so like I have more information, and I have more ways to react as well. I have less chance for the train to go off the edges by just by 3 people having to take a turn before I can help steer the ship again.
Yeah. That's what I was curious.
Oh yeah, you should play it at 2. It's great. It's really good at 2. It's great at 2.
I'm curious. Yeah, you've totally piqued my curiosity now. Like because I liked Hanabi, but I didn't love it. But I feel like I never really thought, like, why don't I just play this with 2? Because, especially with Michelle, because, I'd like to think that we're sort of on the same wavelength when it comes to gaming. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Cool.
And yeah, you can bang it out really quickly at 2 as well. It's just like a quick game, and then you go one more round or whatever. But oh yeah, for sure. Awesome. Highly recommend it too. It's my favorite player count for Hanabi, just because, especially if you play with that same person and you develop that language, like that's part of that's the reason why I like it so much. It's what happens after those subsequent plays of the game, which I find is very unique to Hanabi.
Awesome. Raina, Ray, any thoughts? Have you all played Hanabi? If not, would you be interested in playing on Hanabi based on Chris's description?
Yeah, I love Hanabi. I've only played it on multiple player counts too. It's funny because it's on Board Game Arena, I believe. Is it? No, not Hanabi.
Oh, yeah,
is it?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think you have to be
on there. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's funny because I played it once before there, and apparently there's this meta language that they use on Board Game Arena, so it's kind of like
I believe it.
But if you don't use that meta language, they get mad at you.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm never playing this on Board Game Arena again, but I think it's great. Otherwise,
I've played it on Board Game Arena with Renee, and then no other, because like the thing about Hanabi that I just like love is I would never tell someone anything about it. I wouldn't tell anybody any conventions. Like if people try to tell you conventions about Hanabi, run the other way, because they're not your friend. Like the sense of discovery that you can get by realizing those conventions for yourself that happen over like, I don't know, 5-6 plays, you go, oh, maybe I'll start doing it this way. And then you realize and develop that shared language is the thing that I love about it. And so Board Game Arena, I can see like really ruining that, because they would just be like, well, don't you even know to do this thing? And you're like, well, no, I didn't. And now I'll never get that feeling of discovery, right?
Yeah, no, I can actually say I've never played Hanabi, kind of for the reason that you just brought up, because I used to watch, well, I still do, but I watch a lot of the Brothers Murph content, and I can't remember which brother it is, but one of them hates Hanabi because of that kind of ability to solve Hanabi, where if you get this specific language with everyone at the table, it's not as fun. So that's always steered me away from it, but your description of it has kind of given me a second kind of interest in it, because I love games with weird communication styles. It's one of my favorite things, and you'll actually see me talk about that later in this video. But that was like he was the first person I ever heard talk about Hanabi, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna ignore that, because it sounded like there was a potential game-breaking aspect to it. But it sounds like if you play with the right people, possibly you can kind of
there's a way to solve it. You can tell each other your cards and ruin the game.
Yeah. But it sounds like that sense of discovery, even if it does eventually get to a point where you have this language that's so perfect, that progress of getting there is worth 100%. It. So I'm really glad you put this on your list, because I had kind of written it off in my head for a while.
Cool, great. Yeah. Oh, I'm very excited.
Nice. Awesome. Great choice, Chris. So that's our number 10 for best couples games, folks. Let's move on to our number 9. Ray is going to bring us in for number 9.
Yeah. So speaking about weird communication styles, my first game with no list, if you could even really call it a board game, that's probably a stretch. But this is one of my favorite games of all time, and that is Inhuman Conditions. So this is like a TTRPG mixed with a board game, right? It's not really solidly in either category. And so in Inhuman Conditions, it's kind of like Blade Runner, the RPG, sort of, where you're going to have 2 people. Typically, there is a larger player count variant that I've never played before, but typically in Inhuman Conditions, you have 2 people. One person is an investigator, and the other person is probably not a robot, but you have to figure that out. So the entire game takes place over 5 minutes, just during an interview conversation. So the person across from the interviewer is going to get some sort of occupation and some sort of fun character flavor. And then they're also going to find out one of 3 potential robot roles they might have. They might just be a regular human, they might be a passive robot, or they might be an aggressive, or I think they're called violent robots. And depending on those roles, you're trying to do different things in this interview. So the interviewer is just trying to figure out, is this person human or not human? And if you're the other person across the table, if you're human, you're just trying to survive the interview and not get flagged as a robot. If you're a passive robot, you have some communication barrier. So you're going to pick up a card that's going to say you can only reference, I think the example in this video is you can only reference strangers or enemies. So if the interviewer says tell me about your childhood, you cannot mention your parents, your siblings. You have to come up with weird story reasons why you'd only be talking about strangers or enemies. And then if you're a violent robot, there are things instead of hindrances to your communication, there are specific weird things you have to do in conversation. And if you do those things before the 5 minutes run out, you can kill your interviewer. And it's just a very fun, experimental, conversation-based game. And like I sort of said at the beginning about how we're defining couples games in this, I really tried to lead into games that really shine when you know the other person very well. And I love weird little pocket-sized role-playing experiences. I love playing this game with my partner. It's so fun. It can be honestly kind of awkward if you don't know the other person very well. So I really would only recommend playing this with your primary gaming partner or someone you know very, very well. But it's such a unique, such an interesting experience. You can play it in 5 minutes. And it's just a very well-designed, delightful little role-playing board game experience.
Wow. Ray, this is nice. Another example of you bringing a game that I've never heard of, and now I really want to play this. This is so interesting to me.
I love this game. It's so weird and so fun, and there's such a great reveal when you're a violent robot and you've successfully like met all your requirements. You are supposed to like slam your hands on the table and like scream really loudly. A bunch of weird stuff like that, and I love that kind of thing in a game.
It's so great. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Just a game that encourages you to act silly. And also, like, this is one of those games that, like, I just want to be weird every time because I think it's the funniest.
It's definitely a game where, like, exactly. You can, like, play it really straight as a human and it can be less fun. It definitely encourages you to, when you get that occupation and those flavor text cards, like, really lean into those and really try to answer as if you're that character, which is a lot of fun. It's just such a fun little... Again, more of an experience than a board game because you like if you try to win Inhuman Conditions, I'm not playing Inhuman Conditions with you. But yeah.
Nice. Have you? So you, I mean, it does seem like the type of game that you know you want to play with someone that you know really well. Like, have you played with like a complete stranger? How's that experience? It seems like it would sort of.
I have not.
Okay.
And I don't want to.
Yeah, I can see
because it is like. A weirdly intimate experience, right? You're like grilling someone about fictional details about their life. There's something very, very intimate about it. I mean, if you're ballsy, go for it. It could turn out to be a very interesting experience to walk up to a stranger at a convention and whip this out. Please tell me how that goes. But I think this could be a really fun date night experience.
Nice. Yeah. I'm blown away that I had never heard of this game until right now. So thank you for that, Ray.
Yeah.
Right. That's our number 9. Moving right along the list. It looks like I've got our number 8. And this one I was really excited to include in the list because I think this is a great game for couples or 2 friends or just 2 people that enjoy games. It's actually... Well, I don't like to use the word it killed another game for me, but it's sort of replaced one. So our number 8 collectively, and this is my choice, is Splendor Duel. This is the 2-player version of the classic Splendor, and Michelle and I love Splendor. We loved it at 2. Actually, I preferred the base game to 2 for 2 players. I think it's just a wonderful light engine builder, and it's really easy to understand. You're just collecting gems and then using those gems to bring in different gems and also complete victory point cards as you trade along the Mediterranean. But Splendor Duel, what it does this brilliant thing of having that additional board. So you got like a spatial element to it, a little puzzle where the gems come out in a particular way on there, and now you can only take the ones that are connected and in a row or whatever. And it also includes a couple of different win conditions. It's got just a little more going on than the base game, and that's why Michelle and I, whenever we reach to play Splendor now, it's always Splendor Duel. As you can see here, not only do you have the extra cards that you play with, but also the different abilities that you can take. So there's special abilities that are built into the game as well to get you more gems or more points. And I think it's just brilliant. I love what I think it was Bruno Cathala that came into Marc Andre's original design and added these things. And it just... If you know Splendor, you'll know Splendor Duel. It's just a couple little things. If you've never played Splendor, I think you can still get into this game. It's just a couple additional rules that's different than the base game, but it's just everything about it is right. And for a 2-player game, I think it's absolutely brilliant. And that's why our number 8 is Splendor Duel.
Nice. I love Splendor. I love Splendor just as a 2-player, and I've still yet to play Splendor Duel, and I know I would love it as well. Like I've read the rule book, and I love the pearls. I love the different things. Yep. I was trying to think of if Sobek for 2, like Sobek 2 players, came out around the same time as Splendor Duel. Like which one came first?
Same year. I know that for sure, Chris. But yeah, you're right.
Because they both have the replenishing in the same way.
Yes.
The thing. Sobek Pandasaurus game.
Exactly, a Pandasaurus game. And as Chris said, the resources when you're bringing in those gems or the little chips into your supply there in the base game, you get to choose which ones you take as long as they're available there. But this one though, it adds that puzzle element where I need to take in a certain row or column or whatever, and then when there's only a few left, you're gonna go in the bag and refill it randomly again. So that always changes. It's a really cool take on like a market. So that's what I love about it, and I feel like it keeps the game a little more fresh in my eyes. But I love them both. I will always play Splendor, but if I had a choice, definitely Splendor Duel. Raina or Ray, any experience with Splendor Duel?
I love this game.
Absolutely. And it's really portable too. Phil and I actually played it on the plane to Hawaii last year. So yeah, we just put down our 2 little trays and everything fit perfectly on both of them.
Oh, that's great. Nice.
Yeah, this really game is fantastic. Splendor is fine, but I agree with you, Ruel. This game definitely elevates it. I would always pick Splendor Duel. I was also just really surprised by this. When this was announced, I had again, I find Splendor is fine for me. It's like a gateway game that I wouldn't necessarily pick up again. And I really did not know what they were going to do with a Splendor Duel. And I was so surprised by how much I really enjoyed this.
Yeah. That's part of it as well. I was, we all work in the industry and you sort of, I don't want to say get jaded, but you're like, do we really need a Splendor Duel? It's like, okay, every game is, a duel now, or they have a 2-player, but this one was legit. Wow, this is fantastic. I absolutely love it.
Totally.
Yeah. Let's move on to our number 7. Our guest, Raina, you've got our number 7 for us today, and what will it be?
Yes, so this game is one of my personal favorites. When I was picking my games, I was really going for things that are, quick, short, and sweet, because like I said, couples can mean anything from, your romantic partner to your brother to your roommate. And so you have to kind of gauge where they at in their board gaming history. So my number 7 pick is Jaipur. This is a fantastic little card game. So, it's very simple. And then on your turn, you can do one of 2 things. You can either take a card or you can sell your cards, which are represented by different goods here. So when you take a card, you can either take one from the market or you can actually swap cards from the market with your hand. And as soon as you get enough of the same type of card or good, you can go ahead and sell them. And then you take one of those chips up top and they start with a higher point range and then slowly make their way down to the bottom too. It's played over 3 rounds, and whoever has, the most chips after 3 rounds wins. Because if you have the most points after 1 round, you get one of those chips right there. And it's great. It's on the lighter side, in my opinion. Like I said, the gameplay, you either take cards or you sell cards. This is actually the older version that's showing. The newer version, I really like. It's a bit more vibrant. And it's also portable, which I love. As you can tell, I love my portable games. And it's quick enough to where you might want to play a second game after. It's great.
Yeah, I love how fast this plays, and just that tension of do I use all my camels right now to get all this stuff, or trying to race to get certain ones so you can get all the the higher value tokens. I love how it plays. It's such a cool mechanism, and I played a bunch on VGA. I think it's a really good implementation on Board Game Arena as well. Fun fact, I still haven't showed this one to Michelle. I feel like she'd like it. I don't know why, but my copy I'm looking at right now across the room, it's still in shrink wrap. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. But yeah, I need to bust this one out.
There's your Valentine's Day plan.
Oh,
there's your Valentine's Day plans. Yeah.
It's like I planned it. Yes, happy Valentine's Day, babe. Got you a game.
Let's try a new thing. Now, do you have old version or do you have new version?
I don't know. I picked it up on sale I think a couple of years ago. It's just been sitting here.
Is the box green? Can you see it?
It is green, yes.
Well, yeah, that's old version. Okay. That's a relic.
Nice. Yeah. Maybe I should keep it
a relic of history. I love the green version too.
Yeah. It's such a good game. I really enjoy this one. Ray, have you played this one? I'm assuming you played this one.
I actually have not. No, this is
okay. So no,
I don't.
Oh, it's so good.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it looks great. And I'm always looking for light, entry weight games that you can play with someone. And then also I really like that people mentioned the quick turns of it, because that's huge. If you're learning a new game with someone and you're doing a date night, it could be nice to be able to play a couple of times and not just have that one like loss hang over the night. Like having that ability to play again is always good for a date night dynamic.
Agreed.
This
Chris,
was
you
when
played this a bunch, right?
Oh yeah. When my girlfriend and I started dating, she got this, our like first Christmas together. She took me on a trip. Like we just went up a couple hours outside of the city to like this little cabin area, and like this hotel, more like a chalet, because there was a restaurant there. But she got me this because she had gone to the board game store and had been like, hey, good 2-player game. So she got me this. We went down to the restaurant. We played it at like a table at the restaurant, and so it's really, really possible and doable for that. Like it was just a really great, solid card game. It's always held a really lovely place in my heart. It's a great game.
Aww.
It had to be on the list. Great pick, Raina.
Yeah, had to. Thank you so much.
but here's the real question, Raina. Who's won more times, you or Phil?
Oh, definitely Phil. Phil's a really great strategic player. He used to do competitive card games, so I just accepted it at this point. I'm here for the ride. It's fun. Either way, win or lose.
Hell yeah.
And again, that's what we're all about here, friends, folks, on the R&R show. It's all about the experience, the journey. We're okay with that. Let's move on to our number 6 game. Now, we have a special surprise. Richard is coming to us via video, and if you
via his boat?
If you watch the extended edition, folks, we didn't think he was going to have his videos in time, but as we're doing the show live, the videos are here. So let's take a look at our number 6. Richard, let me see. Where are you, Richard? I'm going to click on this.
He's got good timing.
He does have great timing. Let's see. I'm going to go here. No. Richard, can you... I'm going to press the button right now, and Richard's going to start talking, hopefully, here.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Raina. Welcome to the show. You've got a good list so far, I've got to say, although I think I'm going to be going in a very different direction than all of you. But first of all, Chris, let me just say, I'm sure there'll be plenty of folks who disagree, but I agree. I think Hanabi is a fantastic 2-player game, Jen. I enjoyed it quite a bit. But... as always, Chris, you've just missed the mark, because I would actually suggest, instead of Hanabi, check out Beyond Baker Street. It's basically Hanabi with a Sherlock Holmes theme, and so the world comes to life a lot more. The rules make more thematic sense when we're a bunch of investigators trying to solve a crime and beat Sherlock at it. Plus, the game can have legs for you to grow into, because you can turn on like unique player powers and stuff like that. But still, good choice. Ray, Inhuman Conditions, yeah, I totally dig it. I've never played it myself, but I've heard of it. That's the game where one player is a replicant and they're trying to pretend that they're not, something like that. Yeah, that always just seemed like a pretty cool thing. I'd like to try it someday. And Splendor Duel, Roy, I know you love that one so much, Ruel. I don't know. Splendor was such a turnoff for me and Jen, but I understand from your run-through that it looks so much better. And Raina, Jaipur, here's the deal. I would have put this on my short list if I was considering 2-player only games, like most of you. But I chose not to, because my thought process is, hey, if I'm recommending a game to like a new gamer couple, I was mostly looking at this, try to be as universally appealing as possible. Right? And I wanted to make sure I wasn't coming up with stuff that would like minimize, because I'm thinking, well, okay, if you're just a random couple, what am I going to recommend to you? And chances are, whatever I recommend, if I do my job right, you're going to become gamers and you'll want to share that with other people. And a 2-player only game, well, you got nowhere to go. So the ones I'm talking about today, like Chris, support more than 2, which I think if you can do it, why not? So number 6 on the list is Nimalia, which, well, I know you love this one as much as me. It's an absolutely fantastic game that has 2 parts to it. So it's really kind of like 2 games in one. There's the card drafting, which is all a Sushi Go or 7 Wonders, which is very nicely done, as always. That's always just a rock solid mechanism. Plus, the other thing thing that makes it stand out is the way you do the tile laying. There are a bunch of cards we're grabbing to make animal enclosures or animal biomes, habitats for them to live peacefully in. But I love the idea of laying these cards out and stacking them on top of each other. But both of those pale in comparison to the secret weapon of Nimalia, the way they handle objectives. It's done in the same way as Alexander Pfister's Isle of Skye and the more recent Cartographers, where every time you play there's going to be a random assortment of objectives, but they activate multiple times throughout the game. So this has so much replayability. If I was a new couple gamer and I only had one game to play, this would be very high on my list just because I would be able to keep coming back over and over and over again and seeing new twists to the formula. So I would highly recommend number 6 on the list, Nimalia.
I love Nimalia. Number 6, Nimalia.
Ah, yes.
Wonderful
Nimalia.
game. Yeah, this was actually, I consider this for my list as well. Michelle and I, we literally just played it. During the Super Bowl, we had our daughter and her boyfriend over. We introduced them to Nimalia. It was a huge hit.
Aww.
Now, so that was great for 4 of us, 2 couples, but this is just strictly for couples. Michelle and I played this game a lot. It was one of my top games of last year, I believe it was, when it came out. The tile laying, just the different habitats and animals. Super cute art, super quick. And I love that cartographer style scoring where the different goals throughout each round. And then you have 2 different goals for 3 rounds. Then the final 2 rounds, you have 3 goals. And they always change up. It reminds me of cartographers. But yeah, Nimalia, fantastic choice, Richard. Great choice. Raina, Ray, or Chris, any thoughts on Richard's wonderful choice, number 6?
I haven't played it before, but it sounds exactly like the type of game that I would love. Just the tile laying aspect of it, the variable goals, the drafting. I'm surprised I haven't played it.
Yeah, Raina, highly recommend. I think you would love it. It's fantastic, and it only plays in like 20 minutes. It's super quick.
Yeah, and nice. I remember I saw this on I think I saw this on Twitter quite a bit, but I've yet to actually pick it up. But it definitely looks familiar to me, and it looks like a game I would like. I just have not gotten my hands on it yet.
Yeah, again, same boat. I saw some people playing it at the Niagara Board Gaming Weekend, though, and you know what? They were laughing, they were chuckling to each other.
Nice.
They were having a grand old time. I looked at them and I said, "Hey, you guys seem to be having a great time." And they said, "It's all thanks to Nimalia." And they pulled it up and they all gave me big thumbs up and they cheered and they cheered. So I can only imagine it was a good one. Because of those, their really effusive experience that they had.
It's always a good thing when you get cheers. When you're cheering for a game, I think that's a sign of good sign, right?
You know what? They all collectively did a victory lap around the room. They picked it up. They picked up the box above their head, and then it wasn't enough for everybody, so they all took a tile and they ran around and they shouted "Nimalia, Nimalia." It was very disruptive, but we all enjoyed it because it's a good way to get the word out.
Nice, I love that. Nimalia. Okay, great. That is awesome. We're again, thank you to Richard chiming in all the way from Mexico through the power of the internet. But let's continue the list here. We're on our top 5 now, friends, and we're going to go back to Chris for our number 5.
I'm ready for number 5. I'm ready now. Yes. This is the enemies to lovers pick, right? This is if you really want to get into it. You want to cut each other off at the heels. And this is a game that I think works really, really well at 2 players. I love it at 2 players. This is my top 10 games of all time. I think this game is an underrated gem, and it needs to come back into print. It's Barony. Barony, I might have talked about this game before on this show, but I think it's been a while. It's been enough that I can now talk about it again. Barony, speaking of Splendor, is by the designer of Splendor, Marc-Andre, and it really feels like you take Catan with Splendor with chess or Go, and you kind of put them all up in a blender and go from there. So very similar to Splendor. It's all about action efficiency. You have 6 things that you can do on your turn, all with the goal of getting you more points. And you are going to put people on the board, move those people around, turn those people into houses, as you do with people in the land of Barony. They just erupt. They feel so passionate about the land that they turn themselves into houses, and they come back to your little supplies, so you can send more people out to expand a little bit more. And when they turn into houses, they give you resources from those houses, and those resources all have a different numerical value on them. And one of the things you can do on your turn is exchange some of those resources to move up a step in your land. Basically, you need to cash in 15 points 4 times, and then that will trigger the end of the game, and whoever has the most points at that point wins. Because you can also upgrade things to give yourself a little bit of a bump on the track. But all of it is about that efficiency idea, but it is a confrontational efficiency. And that's why I think this is really, really good at 2 players, because at 3 players or at 4 players, you can kind of get into that king-making-it scenario. It's because you can attack each other, right? I can move 2 of my knights into your house, and if you didn't have a knight there to stop me from doing that, then I can just rip your house from the land and steal a resource from you. So there is this like really head-to-head confrontation that can happen, and when you have 3 players or 4 players, it's a little bit less exciting because 2 people can just pillage 1 player, and you don't have the resources to combat that. However, at 2, it sings. This is my top 10 of all time. Like, this is I love this game. It is so good. And this is a game that, contrary to Hanabi, my girlfriend hates and will never play with me, because it is so confrontational, and she doesn't like that sort of like skirmish styles. Well, she picks and chooses which time she likes the mechanics and not. She likes the mechanics a lot, and sometimes, and other times not at all. But it is that sort of idea of I think games like this and games that have take that elements to it actually work really, really well as couples games, because you avoid that king making scenario that can happen in a larger game where you have that extended player count. Here it is a head-to-head thing, and so then you're always left with the idea of, okay, is attacking you going to put me closer to my goal of that efficiency puzzle, or should I take my turn and do something else with it? Will that get me closer? Right. And so balancing those 2 things, I think, is really fun. It's got a modular board, which is awesome, keeps the game fresh every time. You randomize the tiles. Certain tiles produce different things and have different movement restrictions. You can't move through lakes, for example, but you want your houses to be next to lakes because they spawn more people. And so just having to survey the board and have that initial placement of your locations at the beginning is really great. I absolutely love this game. And if you're a couple who doesn't mind that sort of direct confrontation, highly recommend. It might be in between print runs right now, but it's so good. It'll be around, And if it isn't, when it comes back, I'm going to say, I told you so. Go to episode 83 of the R&R Show, or whichever one.
Nice. Go ahead.
Oh, so sorry, Ro.
You're good.
I'm fascinated that one of your top 10 games of all time is a game I've literally never heard of. It's one of the reasons I love doing the show is learning about games I've never heard of before, but I'm fascinated by the Splendor X Catan X head-to-head skirmishing game. That sounds fascinating. And I think you really nailed it with I'm the same way, where I don't particularly like skirmish games except for 1v1. It's not personal. You're just the only person there is to attack. Avoiding that king making is the only time I will enjoy those really aggressive kind of area control or territory based games. So I'll have to check this out. I've never heard of it before, but I'm very excited to learn about it.
It's great. I've only played base too. Yeah, there's an expansion, but I haven't played it.
Oh, nice.
I've never heard of this game as well. And you know what, Chris, you and I, we got beef now, because why'd you make me so interested in a game that is hard to attain?
Yeah, right?
Just play with me.
Thanks, Chris.
I think, I mean, right. You know what? A million years ago, when I was at Origins 2022, and I stopped by, I think it's Madagot who has this, and I was by their booth, and I was like, yeah, Barony, woo, it's so good. Because I was just literally just excited to see it on the shelf. And the guy there was like, oh yeah, no one's even picked up the box. No, nobody's even picked up the box this whole convention. I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, he's like, yeah, it's because the box kind of looks like generic fantasy, a bit bland.
I was gonna say it looks a little dated for sure. Yeah. Do you know when it was printed initially? Like when it came out? Because it definitely has that like older old school.
It was like
kind
2016
of
or 2017.
Really?
It was around there. I want to say, because it was after Splendor. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll look it up. But yeah, it's anyway, way back then, I was like, oh, why doesn't it sell that well? It's like, it's okay. There might be a reprint coming or some point. I mean, that was way back when, and these projects could get canceled and pushed down the line or whatever. Yeah. But I'm still holding out hope. And I'm like, the moment it happens, you call me because I want to shout it from the rooftops because I think it's so good. So it might be in between print runs, or it might be hard to find, but hold out hope. Let's get the chant going.
That's awesome.
We want Barony. Let's make it happen.
Barony. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm really interested in this, Chris. Again, I've heard about this, but Ray and Raina are talking about it. It does look sort of dated, and I'm like, I just sort of like skipped right over it. But hearing your description, this sounds fantastic, and I think it's not. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be a game that Michelle would be interested in. But my main gaming buddy Daryl, this is definitely our type of game. We totally, would skirmish. We enjoy those type of things. As far as you mentioned the expansion briefly. Do you know what that entails? Like what else it adds to it?
I know it was called like Witches or something like that. I think it probably adds in new units. I never saw a need for it, honestly. So I haven't even tried it. Yeah, I would try it, obviously, because I really like the game. But and I might have described it as skirmish. So there's no sort of like dice rolling or anything, but it's more tactical, right? Like that's where the go and the chess aspect of it comes in. That's sort of like controlled tactics where positioning matters. So it wouldn't be any sort of like large skirmish battles, but positioning, like blocking a space, is as important as claiming a space, right? As you sort of maneuver around.
Okay. And you did say this was designed by Marc-Andre, the designer of Splendor.
2015. I just looked it up.
Okay, yeah, Marc-Andre. I think he does wonderful games. So everyone knows him for Splendor, but this looks amazing. And if you ever played For the Majesty's Realm, is that what it's called? That game is fantastic.
Cool.
Like, that one came out at the same time as Century Spice Road, and I thought that was Marc-Andre's. Remember how people were talking about, hey, Century Spice Road kills Splendor?
Right.
His answer to that was For the Majesty's Realm. And people didn't, that was totally overlooked. I think that's way better than Century Spice Road. Got to check that one out, folks, if you haven't.
Cool.
And just, there's a bonus for you. That's another great couples game for the Majesty's Realm. So there you go.
Let's get it in here. Marc-Andre all day.
All day long. Okay. Why don't we move on? Thank you for that, Chris. Let's move on to Ray, who's got our number 4 game on the list. Ray, what you got for us?
So I'm coming in with another sort of experiential game. You want to call it a board game, sure, but it is more on the role-playing experience side of stuff. And this is such a classic. When I think of couples games, this is the first one I think of. This is a rom-com in a box. This is Fog of Love. I adore this game. I love rom-coms. I love dating sims. I love anything that kind of puts you in that, in that fun role-playing space. Again, keeping with my theme, don't play this with a stranger. That would be really weird. If you do, though, tell me how it goes. Are you kissing now? Because this game will basically have you role-playing a romance with one other person. Important note, it is not your romance. You are taking on the persona of these, again, sort of like rom-com style characters. There's all these cliche coupling stories. So maybe you started dating in high school and now you've been together forever, and will you break up? Won't you break up? You're basically unfolding that story together through relatively simple mechanics. You're basically just going to be going through various events in your life and deciding how you want to react to them with your own secret goals in mind. So you're going to have end goals that you want to have, like an end state of the game that you want to have. Sometimes you'll want to break up with your partner. Sometimes you want to just have everyone be as satisfied as possible. There's a bunch of different modules that you can play in this game, but the core mechanics are you're going to have a couple of different relationship kind of stats. So you're either going to be compassionate or you're going to be cold. You're going to be, kind of snooty, or you're going to be humble. I don't remember what they are off the top of my head. But as you're going through these different events, you're going to be changing your relationship dynamic, and your own personality is going to change throughout the game. And that will affect how happy your partner and you are in the relationship. And if you ever played Decorum, which is another game by this publisher, it kind of has a similar feel where you can't explicitly tell your partner what you want out of this relationship, but through your actions and how you're kind of role playing both in and out of the game, you're supposed to try to suss out what the other person wants from this situation. And again, it's more of an experience. I'm not playing Fog of Love with you if you're here to win Fog of Love. It's a really great experience to play with your partner, to tell a story, to kind of embody a couple that's not your own for a little bit. Can be a really fun experience for an actual romantic couple. But I do think you could play this with a platonic person in your life that you're close with. Maybe just, again, not a stranger, because you are going to be picking how you want to handle intimate or like very intense, dramatic moments. But if you like board games that lean on that TTRPG side, Fog of Love is a classic rom-com board game.
Nice. This is a game.
I thought this might be on your list. I know you love this one.
Yeah.
I love this one.
Yeah. I've yet to play it. I know so much about this game, Ray, but I haven't taken that leap forward to play it yet. I feel like Michelle would be into it, but how much does you talk about the role playing aspect of it? Is it a lot more role playing than board game, or is it more board game than role playing?
It really, I would say, is down the middle. It holds your hand a lot more than, say, something like Inhuman Conditions, where it's like, all right, talk to each other for 5 minutes. That's Inhuman Conditions. Right. This game you can really not role play it at all outside of the choices you're making as your character. So you want to pick things that are in line with your character, but you have objectives that are on paper that guide you towards those objectives. So you don't have to bring a lot of your own creativity to it. I think it's more about, like, if you don't derive joy from creating sort of just a social story, you won't like it. If you're just strictly a board gamer, you won't like it. But if role-playing, the concept of like traditional D&D role-playing makes you anxious, this is not that. You're not going to be having dialogue with your partner. You're not going to be asked to, on the spot, come up with something, but you're just inhabiting a character. That's really as far as that role-playing aspect goes. And some people, that makes them uncomfortable, but this is a nice baby step if you want to try your hand at something that is really a good mix between both mediums of board games and TTRPGs.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. I really want to get this to the table. I may have a copy sitting around here somewhere. But
it's a fun one. The only thing I will say is that it can be a little bit fiddly. There are quite a lot of little bits happening, which is my one gripe with it, is that the thieving and the mechanics feel like they should be so entry level, but it's like the how to play is 23 minutes long. That is like a long how to play for a game of this style. So that's I would love for them to come out with like maybe a small travel version of it or something that's a little bit trimmed down, because this is kind of a board gamer's game. Like, they've got all the expansions and all the but all these things that can be a little intimidating for maybe who I think the target audience of this game is supposed to be.
Right.
That's my one gripe with it.
You know what? I would love a TikTok from Raina to explain how to play the game. That would be my jam right there.
Good luck getting it in a minute, but if anyone can do it, Raina can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
This game is fantastic. It feels like a choose your own adventure type of game. You know, the ones that we used to play like on our apps or mobile phones all the time. I will say this is not for the weak relationships. And what I mean by that is, if you have the type of personality where you have a dream that your partner cheats on you and you wake up and you're actually really upset with them. This will be like an exercise, and like it's like exposure therapy, because you will come across some conflict for sure, and you really have to detach yourself from the character that you are playing as.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to like do that disclaimer of like, it's not your relationship, but it is something you have to constantly remind yourself. I am playing Mary. I'm not myself. You are not you. You are someone else, because it does put you in that. If you do really get into it and you are with your romantic partner, 100%, it could be exposure therapy is a great way to describe it. Absolutely.
That is good to know.
Well, I'll promise you this, Ruel. I've never played it as well, but you and I can play it together. And before it begins, I'll make sure to search through those cards and get the goal to make sure you and I are both incredibly satisfied. I think those were the words that Ray used.
Yes, I want to make sure that's the terminology.
I think we both win. We will both win as long as
I would pay so much money to watch the two of you play that game. Please, dear God, that'd be so funny.
You heard it here first, folks. Right here on the R&R Show, Chris and I, we're going to win that game, and we will win the hearts of all of you.
That.
We will win it. We will win our hearts.
Nice. All right, great call, Ray. Yeah, I'm super excited to actually give this one a shot. So thank you for that. Let's move on. We've got our top 3 remaining, folks. Our best couples games. Number 3 is going to be to me. And if you saw our extended edition of the show, I talked about this one. And click on the links below to find out what I said about this game. It's our number 3 best couples game. This is probably, for me and Michelle, is probably our number 1 game that we played together. Not only the most, but the one that we enjoy the most. It is Patchwork. This is a Uwe Rosenberg game about making quilts, and I've always loved it because it was one of the first games I got many years ago that was like not typical like sci-fi fantasy or whatever. I mean, we're building quilts. I mean, how different is that? And this is a brilliant one that Michelle and I, we learned from this game. The biggest thing we learned is that we love tile laying games, and this is a brilliant one. You lay tiles down, trying to make your quilt. You're trying to cover all those squares, and of course, it's going to be really impossible because all the shapes are funky and different. And the thing that I really love about this game is the economy. The currency in the game are the little buttons, and as you go around, this is Richard's playthrough from many years ago. There are certain spots on the board where you're going to get income, basically, which are those buttons. And those buttons, you use those to purchase new pieces to your quilt. And as you can see there, they are all different sizes. You're trying to lay them down perfectly because, in typical Uwe Rosenberg fashion, you're going to have a lot of negative scores in this game. So any open space is going to be worth a -2 points. So you're trying to fill those all up, and it is tough. It is such a nice, I mean, I wouldn't call it brain burny, but it's definitely a thinky game. And one thing that I learned from Michelle right off the bat was that getting that income is really crucial to having any kind of success in this game, because you want those buttons to purchase things, because if you don't have income, you could always pass, and passing is fine, because as you pass, all the spots that you pass, you're going to get income for that. Like if I leap ahead 4 spots, then I'm going to get 4 buttons, which is great because I'm going to get pieces. But at the same time, now my opponent, it's their turn, and if they're behind you by so many spaces, they're going to have opportunities to take a couple of turns in a row. So it's kind of sort of like that Tokaido thing too, where person in last sort of has an advantage. I absolutely love this game. And, Uwe Rosenberg went on to do like a trilogy of other tile laying games like Cottage Garden, Indian Summer, and so forth. And of course, the big one, Piece of Odin. But this one to me is so great because it's so easy to get to table. Because the rules, really, there's not much. It's like, do you know Tetris? Then we're going to play Tetris right now, but we're going to throw in some buttons as well, and we're going to see who can fill up their quilts by the end of the game. Hopefully, you'll score the most points. But gosh, I love this game so much. That's why it's our number 3 on our collective list of best couples games, Patchwork.
I knew it would be on your list. You love Patchwork, Ruel. You're the Patchwork champ.
Yes, I love it so much. It's there are other tile laying games that are terrific that are out there. And again, folks, if you click on the links below for the extended edition, I'm going to reveal a couple of other tile laying games that work great for couples. But this one, for whatever reason, is just so near and dear to my heart because, again, I got into the hobby not many moons ago, but about 7 years ago, and this one was relatively new at the time. And I was so excited because I can honestly tell y'all that I have no other quilting games in my collection. So this is the one, and I love it so much. I play it online all the time on BGA. There's also an app, but for me, OG Patchwork, it's always going to be a hit. It's an evergreen for me. What about y'all? Do you have any experiences with Patchwork or any of the Uwe Rosenberg tile laying games?
Yeah, I feel like this is the quintessential 2-player game, honestly. Like, if you held a gun to my head and you're like, quick, name a 2-player game, it'd be Patchwork every time.
Yeah.
And this is a game that I actually see a lot online where people are asking for advice about, I'm trying to get my partner into board games. What should I start with? Patchwork is one of the ones that's talked about the most frequently because, like you said, it's a familiar mechanic. Most of us have played Tetris and know how it plays before, but then you just gamify it a little bit. And I think it's great.
Yeah, that familiarity of like Tetris, right? I think that goes a long way because when I remember introducing Michelle, I just said Tetris, and her eyes lit up because she's always playing Tetris on her phone. She's like, "What, Tetris board game? Yeah, there it is." And yeah, it's been a winner in our household ever since.
That's awesome. I love Uwe Rosenberg and those spatial puzzles. As I mentioned in a previous episode, Feast for Odin's one of my favorite games, and this kind of takes that little thing that you do out in your Viking yard and just makes that the whole game. And so what is not to love about Patchwork?
Agreed.
Patchwork, I'm consistently horrible at. I'm a good board gamer. I am not when I play Patchwork. We
all have that one game where
it's the game in the pre-show we talked about the game that you would guaranteed win. This is the game I guaranteed lose.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Chris, let's play this game sometime. I would love to.
Yeah. You'll Kareem, you want to feel good about yourself? Play me in Patchwork. That's the secret of life and happiness.
Nice.
Okay, it's like, how'd you get negative 84 on that? I just passed.
And what's funny is like I've won and I've lost games where I've had negative scores, like because it can be pretty punishing if you don't get the right pieces at the right time, and it's like. I'll tell you something. It does feel good to win. Like, hey, I've only got -2. You've got -30. Like, I win. Like, even though it's negative score, it still feels good to win.
Totally.
Let's move on to our number 2, Raina, our special guest. So, got a number 2. What do you have for us?
This game is very near and dear to my heart. My husband and I have a lot of good memories of playing this game in bed, using like a poster board as a table and having to whisper so we don't wake up our roommates. And speaking of, Ruel, you said that, with Patchwork, there's a familiar aspect of Tetris. With this game, I always like to call it Battle Yahtzee, and that is Dice Throne.
Yes.
Now, this game, I think, can play at least up to 4 players, possibly even more, but I just love the head-to-head 2-player version of it. The basic gameplay of this is that you chuck a bunch of dice, and then you get 2 rerolls, and you're trying to complete classic Yahtzee hands. So you have 2 pairs, or straight, or large straight, or Yahtzee, or all 6s, and you're playing as a certain character. And there's a bunch of different ones that you can play as. So that's where it really gets great with the asymmetry. And then you're trying to just whittle your opponent down to 0 health points. It's also great because you have your personal player board and you can actually upgrade your different attacks and your different defenses. Each of the players or each of the characters also has different not only play styles, but difficulty. So if you are playing against someone who hasn't really played this that much, you can give them a lower difficulty level and giving yourself a higher difficulty level. So it's interesting for the both of you. Mm-hmm. And, this is great. They have so many different iterations and characters of it out. There's season 1, there's season 2, there's Marvel Dice Throne. And there's also, if you enjoy it so much, there's a Dice Throne Adventure. So it's a cooperative sort of campaign game. This game also has one of the most active and large fan bases I've ever seen. I'm a part of the Dice Throne community on Facebook, and that it's always popping off in there. So this is great. I love this game.
Yeah, this is so good. You described it perfectly, Raina. 2 words: Battle Yahtzee. That's what exactly
all you need.
This is.
Yeah,
and you weren't kidding about a passionate fan base. Oh my gosh! Like I've seen that passionate fan base. They love this game, and it's so cool. All the different IPs that are involved with it now. And I believe, Chris, there was wasn't there a World Series of Board Gaming tournament?
We had the National Dice Throne Championships at WSBG last year. It was cool. We got to live stream it. I got to see their picks because the tournament setting is really cool. You bring in 3 characters, and then your opponent bans one. So you're like, okay, here are the 3 characters I'm going to play, and then you ban one, and you have to win with both of your characters that are left as well. So it's cool. so people were trying to out meta each other. They're like, yeah, this one always gets banned, so that's why I'm bringing this in, so that they ban it, so that I actually get to keep these 2 and play it that way. So that was really cool. I think Raina, you hit it 100%. It's a 2-player game. It's nothing. Yep. It's not any other thing other than a 2-player game. It is a 2-player game, 100%. But it is a great 2-player game for sure.
Yeah. I got a confession. The first time I played Dice Throne, I hated it. And here's why.
Really?
Here's why. Because we played I think it was a 5-player battle royale game. I was like, there's no way. And then, that scarred me for a couple of months. I came back to it as a 2-player game, loved it. I was like, okay, this is the way it should be. So yeah, it's a fun game.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I'm devastated because my girlfriend doesn't like Dice Throne at all, and honestly, it's grounds for separation. Have that come up in Fog of Love and see what happens. I think it's irreconcilable.
Yeah, the event card is your partner doesn't like your favorite board game. Yeah. What do? You
leave them. That's what you do. You get gone.
Get gone. Oh my gosh. All right. Cool.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, that's it exactly here on the R&R Show. Let's see what Richard's got for us for our number 1 couples game. Take it away, Richard.
Okay, some more excellent choices. Although, once again, Chris, you and I are the only ones that are simpatico, looking for games that work well for more than 2. But Barony, what are you looking for? Games that will split couples up and lead to divorce? Jeez Louise. I mean, I've heard it's a great game, but man, way too cutthroat for me and Jen. Although, if folks are interested in an interesting 2-player only area control game, might I suggest Fjords? I think that's actually a fantastic alternative, especially the new one, because hey, it'll house, again, more than 2, and it has a bunch of modules you can turn on, so there's lots of flexibility and replayability baked into it. Ray, Fog of Love, yeah. An excellent choice. Probably the safest bet on this entire thing. If you've got a loving couple and they want to, well, you know what? This could actually be kind of a dangerous one too. It might mean you plumb previously unexplored depths of your relationship. But Fog of Love is brilliant, and Patchwork, of course, Ruel. Yeah, that's an OG couples game in the biggest way. And Raina, what was it? Oh, Dice Throne. Again, more head-to-head stuff. Although, don't forget, Dice Throne does have the expansion that can turn it, or the standalone game, Dice Throne Adventures, that can turn into a co-op game. So that'd be something for folks to grow into. And it makes sense. Hey, we're new gamers, we're couples gamers, we want to grow. Oh my gosh, there's so much more Dice Thrones available. But anyway, folks, back to me. Number 1 on the list. It was the instant one I thought of when this was broached. Cascadia. Yeah. Actually, it's interesting. Jen and I, we're on the road here in Baja, and we've got a copy of Cascadia, and we've actually played it several times with complete board game noobs, all of whom, coincidentally, were couples, and they've all said, yeah, we're going to have to get a copy of this and bring it home with us because, well, it works great at any player count. And, like I said right up front, I'm trying to go for games that are kind of universally appealing, not doing a lot of things with superheroes or science fiction or high fantasy or whatnot. Just trying to find the right home for beautiful woodland creatures while making, the Cascade Pacific Northwest area. It's just, it's never failed. I mean, there's a reason it won the Spiel des Jahres. Although I still am kind of the fence and thinking maybe it should have been a Kenner, but I understand. It comes with the easy setup, but even that can be fairly complex. Anyway, though, regardless, Cascadia is deservedly one of the all-time greats, and I cannot recommend it highly enough, which is why it comes in at the top of the list. But folks, I've got more to talk about. I'm actually about to go out there and get on a boat and do some whale watching, but when I get back in the post-show, I'll have some additional ones that I think are worth mentioning. Okay, back to you guys.
Richard, for number 1, chose Cascadia. Okay.
Okay, nice.
Great choice, Richard. I love Cascadia. Again, another game that Michelle and I absolutely adore, and it was one of my favorite games of 2023, I believe, or was it 2022? Time has no meaning. But we love tile laying games, and this one is special. It's got that dual tile lane that I love. You have your habitats and you have your animal tokens that you try to line up. There's different things. I just recently got into the Landmarks expansion, and that one, for people who are in the heavier games that think Cascadia is too light, definitely get that Landmarks expansion because it adds a few things that really make it a little more crunchy. But yeah, I love Cascadia. What about y'all? Thoughts about number 1, Cascadia?
I love Cascadia. I will poke at Richard a little bit in that I don't know for 2 players that it is like it's not a distinctive 2-player experience in my mind, but I do love Cascadia. It's one of my favorite tile-laying games. It's one of my favorite little pick up and go games. I played this when I went to Europe with my mom recently. We took all the tokens in a little bag and we played it on the plane, and it was just delightful. And yeah, Cascadia is great. I wouldn't necessarily call it like a 2-player definitive experience, but I know Richard only plays games like with his wife, so I can understand where he's coming from with that.
Totally.
Yeah, fun fact, Cascadia is one of the, I believe, 7 games that has won both the Spiel and the BGG Golden Geek Game of the Year award.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's for good reason.
Yeah.
It's definitely really great, and I think it's when I think of Cascadia, I think of the other games that's also by the Flat Out and AEG duo, which is Calico and Verdant.
Yes.
And Cascadia remains my favorite out of the 3. It's a great contemplative experience, and they have different like scoring objectives, so the game doesn't get stale. You can really just keep going.
Yep.
And it's beautiful. What else can you ask for?
I agree, Raina. I'm glad you brought that up. Calico, Verdant, those are terrific games. But for whatever reason, Cascadia is the one that hits the hardest with me. I love how there's a reason why it won those awards, right? It's just so easy to get to the table, yet there's enough strategy there to satisfy any gamer, I think.
Yeah, I think for me it's close. I think I like Verdant more. I think I Verdant just edges it out. I haven't played Calico, but I played Cascadia and Verdant. Although the last game of Cascadia, it was at 2 players and it was really cooking. Nice. And I was like, "Uh-oh, you're coming back now." I think it's also Verdant is the game that my girlfriend likes to play the same game over and over again, and I like to play a lot of different games. But so that's her current one that she's been requesting, so we've been playing it a bunch recently. Awesome. So I've been enjoying it. But yeah, both that whole, I know Calico is great because I've heard great things about it. I like all of that.
It's crunchy. Calico is such a different experience from Cascadia.
Totally. Yeah.
It's wild. I mean, I understand why people make the comparison between those 2 games all the time, obviously, but they're such different experiences in my mind.
So good. Yeah. I don't know what
I'm excited to try
water
it.
Up there. But they're creating some great games up in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh my God, yeah.
But yeah, friends, that's our top 10 the couples games. Be sure to click the links below to find the extended edition. We're going to talk about a bunch more, so is Richard. Raina, I want to thank you on behalf of Ray and Chris and Chris with the Hearts. I want to thank you so much for joining us, my friend. It's been great talking to you and learning about games and learning about you as well.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really wonderful hanging out with you 3, and hope to do it in person sometime.
Yeah, Let's do it for sure. Okay, that's going to be it, folks. Thanks again for watching the R&R Show, episode 83. Until next time, we'll talk to you later. So long. See ya. Bye-bye.